First of all, thank you all so much for coming. And we have just a few things to talk about that are going to be fairly interesting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what I know and what my investigative team has been able to uncover over the last 2 months. Approximately 7 weeks ago, my campaign began receiving anonymous information and emails regarding my opponent, Senator Jim Merritt. This information was extremely specific and warranted being looked into. The information initially began talking about that Mr. Merritt had filed for divorce against his wife, Kelly. A very private matter, I would agree. So that part didn't interest us a whole lot. That is between Mr. Merritt and his wife. What did interest us, and the specifics that were given to us by this anonymous tipster, were intriguing. And the first would be that Senator Merritt had filed outside of his district in Hamilton County. He is a resident of Marion County. That is not illegal. There are ways to get around it. Typically, that is only used for minors. A court may allow you to file in a different jurisdiction, or rather a different county than you live, if you are a minor. So in speaking to court observers, they called this abusive and highly, highly unusual. In addition, Mr. Merritt filed under his initials only. So I did send my team out. We have some ex-police officers, as well as one current police officer who works on our campaign as a volunteer, and we began to have them conducting more research. Upon that research, we were able to find that Merritt listed in his decree filing of his marriage, or rather in his divorce petition, that he intentionally did not want the people in his county to know that he was filing, and that was the reason given for needing to file in a different county and using his initials. After this information was confirmed and we received copies of both the divorce petition as well as the granted divorce, which took place, I believe the grant for the divorce was signed within the last week or two. We also started receiving, after that, extremely detailed information questioning whether Mr. Merritt actually lived in the district, our district, District 31. Again, we had to take everything with a grain of salt, or we would have come to you guys immediately, and it would have been something that we would have loved to have shared, but we didn't have facts at that point, and we're not interested in sharing information where we didn't have anything to back it up. So at that point, we hired a team to go to the apartment complex, and a specific apartment where Mr. Merritt has registered to vote. And we ended up sitting on that apartment for approximately 3 weeks. Mr. Merritt showed up on 2 occasions, and he showed up in the middle of the day, collected the newspapers that piled up in front of his door, and left. We then began, or rather my team, my investigative team, which consists of ex-police officers and one current police officer off duty, began conducting opposition research in the area and interviewing neighbors. Each neighbor that was interviewed identified the individual in the picture as the person who they only see come and go and collect mail and, or rather, newspapers from the front door, but that person has never been seen to turn a light on. One woman, in fact, was very elderly, and her window faces Mr. Merritt's windows, and she was more than willing to give information. The blinds never changed in the 3 weeks that we were there. They were very specifically open, including the bedroom blinds. My people never saw a single light come on in this apartment. What I can tell you about this is, can I prove beyond a reasonable doubt or beyond a shadow of a doubt rather, that he does not live there? No. Do we have pictures of the property? Do we have interviews with neighbors who tell us this individual doesn't live here, no one lives there? Yes, we have that. Again, after sitting on the property for 3 weeks and not seeing him there, that is reason enough for me to feel comfortable coming to the public and letting them know what we know. In addition, after we started receiving all of this information and then conducting our own investigation, we found that Mr. Merritt had shown employment as of March of this year at 3 different companies, all residing in the same building on North Meridian Street. I believe it's 9105 North Meridian, but we'll need to confirm that after the interview. And these were all basically the same type. They were travel agent businesses. So my team then went to this location, and it was a clear glass door with the travel agency name on the front and the logo. And fortunately for us, it was a clear glass door because it is a completely empty building. Not a chair, not a phone, not a person, not a desk, nothing. So, again, we move into, then we start questioning, where is Merritt's money coming from? We know he was fired from the railroad years ago and has been a senator ever since, but everyone knows state senators don't make any money. That was something else. Within the divorce decree, Mr. Merritt was ordered to pay his wife $250,000 and was able to do so. One of the questions our campaign wants to ask is, where is Merritt's money coming from? Where does Merritt live? Why did he circumvent the judicial system by not filing within his own county, which the law provides that he do, going outside of his county and using his initials? We can only come to one conclusion, and that is to mislead the voters. That needs to be known. In addition, we just mentioned the railroad that Mr. Merritt was fired from a few years ago. At the beginning of this campaign, pursuant to Access to Public Records Act, IC 5-14-3, we requested all of the emails on his Senate account only, which is the people's account, taxpayer account. Any and all emails and written communications between the office of State Senator Jim Merritt and Pete Mills, who served as the CEO of the Indiana Railroad Company between the dates of April of 2012 and April of 17. We were told we had a letter sent back to us from the Senate committee saying that even though the law states that they must turn this information over to us, and it's obvious why we were looking for this information, what was happening, that Mr. Merritt sat as a chairman on the Utilities Committee while working for the railroad. So he sat on a committee, didn't sit on it, he chaired the committee while working for the railroad. So his Utilities Committee oversaw the company he was working for, which is why we had requested this documentation to begin with. So we received a letter back from the Senate saying, pursuant to tradition, Senate tradition was the quote they gave us, we choose not to obey the law. We choose not to send you this information. So we have a huge issue with the fact that a sitting senator who helps to create the law has flat out refused in writing to turn over information which is public information, and hence the law dictates this through the act which I just read, the Public Records Act. So in itself, that is a crime. We have him going outside of his district once again, rather outside of the county, to vote in another county using his initials. We have him claiming to work at a specific location, which actually is not a place of work because it's a completely empty building. And we have a residence which no one seems to live in, and which neighbors have verified no one is living in it.